Welcome on back, everybody, to episode 93 of Streaming with the Mouse, where today we were talking about the season premiere of Marvel Studios' What If. Sit back, relax. This is Streaming with the Mouse. Welcome on back, everybody, to episode 93 of Streaming with the Mouse, where today we are talking about season 1, episode 1 of What If, titled What If Captain Carter Were the First Avenger. My name is Cam Ramos, and joining me as always is my fellow Avenger, we'll call you the Thor to my Iron Man, we'll go with. But it's Cliff. Cliff, say hello to the nice people.
But I want to be Iron Man.
Well, I don't want it to be Iron Man today. I'll be
Uh,
Thor next time. We'll switch off. But Cliff, we got a series premiere. What If? Marvel Studios' first ever animated project, and I thought it was great. I can't wait to talk about it. What are your quick thoughts on it before we jump into everything?
I really liked it. It really stood out almost in a very fun but serious. It was equally fun, funny, and serious at the same time, which I
Absolutely.
really appreciated. And I thought the voice acting was incredible, and I'm excited to see where. And there goes me saying excited again. I'm excited to see where it goes forward because we made it. The Watcher made it seem like this Peggy is what we're following her timeline. I think Marvel Zombies is going to be a little different, but we'll wait and see. But really cool. I loved the animation as well. I want to
I
add
We'll
that.
talk about that. We'll talk because it was incredible. But yeah, those are all great points, and we'll get dive a little bit deeper into it in a little bit. Cliff, let's jump into some news real quick. I know you had a quick news story you wanted to share because I know this is our second episode this week, so we don't have too much news, but we have a little bit.
Yes, so according to Brie Larson, we know that The Marvels, which is the Miss Marvel sequel, is now filming. Beside that, we don't know a whole lot. All we know is that it is starring Brie Larson. I think it's Amon. I forget her name. The girl playing Miss Marvel, as well as I'm forgetting everyone's name today from WandaVision.
Yes,
But
very very excited for that. Should be good.
Monica Rambeau, yes.
Yes, Monica
Um,
Rambeau. Yeah, so it
and
should be good. I'm excited that they're starting filming on it.
really cool. And the other thing we got today is on Twitter, Samuel or Instagram, Samuel L. Jackson showed that he was back as Nick Fury, and people were like, "Oh, is this for a Secret Invasion or Secret War starting?" And I'm like, "No, they confirmed." In my head, I'm like, "No, they confirmed that for September filming." So my guess is he will be also in the Marvels.
Probably
So
that would be my guess
it
as
would
well. It
make
would make
sense
sense.
because he was the lead male, like next to
Yeah,
Brie Larson. So it makes sense.
yeah,
So really cool. This I think this movie's gonna be great. So
yeah. I'm excited for it. Especially, it's a cool sequel. It's a cool way to do a sequel where you have, yes, it's a Captain Marvel sequel, but you're also bringing Miss Marvel into the movie side of things. We'll already have her introduction from the Disney Plus show, but it'll be cool to bring her into the cinematic part of it.
absolutely.
Cliff, I think that's our only news story for today. Is that correct?
That is. We
All
already
right,
talked
let's
about
get
everything else the other day.
yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about episode 1 of Marvel Studios' What If. What if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? We kind of had an idea that this is where we're going to start off on Disney and Marvel and Disney Plus. We're all teasing that this is the first storyline. It seems like, so I thought originally What If was going to be just multiple different storylines. It seems like this is all going to be connected together. So I'm wondering if this is all going to be like this one decision that Peggy Carter made, and we'll talk about it in this episode, did the whole timeline for this one specific universe. That's how I took it. I don't know if you took it like that.
Well,
Like, do you think we'll
I
be following multiple realities or just this one branch timeline?
I think we're going to be following multiple timelines specifically because of the opening. I think we're going to have these arcs. They might be out of order, but they're all going to work together because I remember distinctly there's a shot of Peggy, Captain Carter, in this doing the circle with the
Yeah,
Avengers, with her version of the Avengers. So I think yes, they will like. There might be some different multiverses, but we'll come back to hers for sure.
yeah. Before we get started on this, obviously this is Marvel's first venture into animation, and by Marvel I mean Marvel Cinematic or Marvel Studios, I should say, first venture into animation, where this is canon as far as the MCU, MCM, whatever you want to call it. I like the MCM. I think it's a little funny now, especially with the multiverse. Um, your thoughts on the animation, Cliff?
Beautiful. I didn't really. I mean, I liked it when we saw it when it was first introduced, but actually seeing it, it worked really well. You could tell which actors were which. Like you could definitely see. Like I could see Haley Atwell. I could see
Yeah.
skinny Chris Evans and whoever the body double was for him. The only one I really complain about is Bucky. I did not think they did Sebastian Stan justice, but still, artwork wise, beautiful, very
Yeah,
nice, and very comic booky.
I don't think the posters and I don't even think the trailers and teasers did the animation justice when it was fully fledged out, like those fight scenes where it looked like there was two different styles of animation sometimes where it was like this style of animation, like the main one that they're using, but then when like the big fire explosion, it looked like a different kind of animation and they blended it together beautifully and perfectly. I thought the animation was fantastic.
That yeah, it's. I'm even more excited to see it going forward.
Yeah, especially when we get into some more weird stuff. The lighting was everything was great about it. But let's talk about it. The Watcher basically tells us that he's the guide through the realities that we're going to go through. Obviously, we know the multiverse is open. Shout out to our girl Sylvie for helping to launch this show, basically, based off the end episode of Loki season one. The Watcher basically says, "Here we are. We're in Earth 1943," which kind of tells me we're going to be jumping around timelines, obviously, but obviously planets as well for specifically saying this is Earth. And this is the current sacred timeline up until a certain point. In Captain America: The First Avenger, Peggy gets told, "Oh, like go up there to this room or something like that," and she goes there. However, in What If, the ranch moment, the what do they call it?
The Nexus event.
Thank you, the Nexus event in this case is Peggy says, "No, I'm going to stay down here," and just that one little like, that's what I thought was great about this. It wasn't like a big thing like, "Oh, I'm gonna punch this guy in the face." Someone's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna stay down here." That was enough for a Nexus event that turned Peggy Carter into a superhero, which was pretty cool. So she says, "No, I'm gonna stay here," and that's where the Nexus event happens. Like I said, uh, you get the battle that happens where one of the spies tries to basically steal the super soldier serum, and he is successful in some bit where he doesn't steal the serum this time, but he actually wounds little tiny Brooklyn Steve Evans.
That's a new one.
Excuse me.
It's not even voiced by
I
Chris.
know. And Steve Evans. Oh my god.
Again. I'm leaving this in.
You should. Oh my god. Steve Rogers is so injured that listen, they're gonna. Howard Stark is there too, which is great. He's like, hey, we're gonna lose this. Like somebody needs to get in here. Colonel Flynn is telling Stark like, "Hey, get in there, get in there." He's like, "No, I'm just a button pusher." And Peggy steps up to the plate because Steve is injured, and goes and takes the super soldier serum against Colonel Flynn's orders. But Howard really helps out and just like, "Nope, screw it. We're doing this. We're not losing my research. We're getting a super soldier today." What were your thoughts on this beginning scene? I love the Nexus event. I want to talk about it a little bit, but go ahead, Cliff.
Yeah, I mean obviously they killed I can't think Tommy Lee Jones's character because that's who the colonel takes. That's what John Flynn takes over for. He takes over after this. They never really show not Johan, Erskine die,
They show him for
which
like 2 seconds,
they show him
basically.
for 2 seconds, and it was Stanley Tucci, which was
Yeah,
really funny. They got Stanley Tucci to come in and say 3 words and
3 words. Yeah,
peace out. Um, I really liked the parallels. I loved the glasses. With Stark, obviously Dominic Cooper came back to reprise his role as Howard, and he's been excellent ever since. Made him a little too nutty, personally. I thought
I thought it was fine.
overall, I thought it was funny. It was good comic relief, but sometimes I'm like, oh my god, here he is again. Um, but yeah, I'm also going to give a shout out. I thought John Keaton did a really good job as Skinny Steve Rogers,
Yeah,
where he really sounded like Chris, which was
yeah, he
very
did.
weird. Which was very weird to me. It made me like double take. Like, did he come back for this? He
Right.
did not.
Um, so she takes the super soldier serum, and there we go. But what I did want to say was that next event, just to again harp on it, I love how little the next event was. That little tiny switch, literally just going upstairs and staying down here, was enough to make Peggy Carter Captain Carter, and that was awesome. Peggy gets the super soldier serum, and immediately she faces a lot of discrimination, especially from Colonel Flynn because she's a woman. You shouldn't be on the front lines, like blah blah blah. Like you're not a real super soldier serum. The only thing you're gonna be good for is if we find out what's in your body that we can recreate the serum again to put in a real soldier. Colonel Flynn, played by Bradley Whitfield, is an absolute dick in this. Plays it very well though, very good. Like, I mean, terrible guy, terrible character, but like Bradley Whitfield plays him well, basically, to be this like prick. Makes a lot of sense in the 1940s where women were discriminated like this against, like couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. And Peggy's the perfect like protagonist to fight against this kind of discrimination she's been facing.
Yeah, what an ass is definitely the best way. I heard the voice, and I watched it at 7 a.m. and I'm like, oh, that voice sounds really familiar. And then the more and more I heard him, I'm like, oh, it's Bradley. It's
Josh.
Bradley.
Josh.
I will say that's my thing. I have never seen. I've watched one episode of West Wing, and I just didn't get into it. I know him from Get Out, and I know him from what's it called? He's Jake Peralta's dad in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
So he's also in everything. He's made his rounds in so many things.
Yeah,
obviously, West Wing is what made him extremely famous.
Yeah.
But he's just an incredible actor, and I honestly want him to be in the MCU now, but it makes zero sense why.
Yeah, no, you can't really do it, I guess. But so Steve, like we talked about, couldn't get the super soldier serum because he was badly wounded by that spy who had came in to try to steal the super soldier serum. But what was really cool, and I like this a lot, and I don't think it was like officially said that he's in the Hydra Stomper until I feel like 2 weeks ago when the Lego set came out. I feel like that was like when it was like, oh, that's Steve. Steve's the Hydra Stomper. But it's cool because like the Hydra Stomper is obviously, I don't want to say modeled after Iron Man because Iron Man would have come after the Hydra Stomper. But let's call a spade a spade. It looks like a giant Hulkbuster made by not Tony but Howard Stark. Just really cool, especially with Tony and Steve's relationship. It's cool that like, okay, if this one thing happens where Peggy stays down below, all these things happen, and this leads to Steve essentially being the first quote-unquote Iron Man as the Hydra Stomper. Really special. I thought that was a really cool little moment for them.
I personally thought it was really funny because it was the whole thing where Tony always grew up really jealous of Steve Rogers because like that was my dad's like golden creation.
Right.
It's the Hydra Stomper is modeled after Tony's Mark 1 that he makes in the desert with a bunch of scraps. The only thing is we know Howard had an idea like this at the time, and in Iron Man 2 we see that I'm limited by my time, and that's what he tells Tony he's his greatest creation. So giving him the power of the Tesseract is what made Howard had the technology of that time to create what he wanted to create.
Yeah, and going off that, that's one thing I wanted to mention about the Hydra Stomper suit, which I love. I need to get this Lego set. But in Iron Man's suit is, well, originally the first couple marks were built and powered by the arc reactor that his dad always wanted to build but couldn't. But then, like you said, Cliff, he had the Tesseract, and like Cap's suit or Hydra Stomper's suit is powered by the power of the Tesseract. Also a cool little thing, especially since it was introduced in Captain America: The First Avenger. It's cool. The parallels here are awesome. And again, I know they're doing it because of that, but all from this one moment, this and that are happening. So it's really, really cool, I thought.
Yeah, it was a perfect parallel.
Yeah. And you had mentioned you thought Howard was a little kooky, or I don't know what the word was that you used.
A little bit.
I really liked him and Peggy's relationship in this, where like Howard could have easily said like, no, like I'm not letting Peggy do this, but he went against Colonel Flynn's orders. Like, nope, Peggy's in there. Great, press the button. She's gonna be a super soldier right now, and he's actually the one that encourages Peggy to be like, hey, this is what your suit was gonna be for the USO tour that you didn't have to do like Steve did, but he didn't say that because obviously Steve didn't have to do that in this universe. But made the shield for her with the British flag on it, and really encourages her like, hey, like get this thing done. And she goes on some missions, and it's really, really cool. But their friendship was really great.
Yeah, I think we kind of got that in Captain America: The First Avenger. It was even more on par this time because Peggy was the focal point.
Right. And another good relationship here too is obviously Steve and Peggy. And it's a little bit interesting because originally it was like this in the First Avenger, it was this little skinny kid from Brooklyn who turns to a super soldier and meets Peggy, and they have this love relationship. But in this, it's Peggy did the right thing by becoming a super soldier, because Steve couldn't, and Steve really looks up to her, and like that, he's her hero. Or well, both of them are each other's heroes.
That was
Um,
cute.
but yeah, it was a really cute moment. But one moment too was like Steve was like, "Oh, I'm just a man in a suit," which is great because again, a lot of parallels happening that reminds you of like him saying to Tony in I think the first Avengers movie, like take off the suit, like what are you kind of thing, and that's where you get the famous like playboy philanthropist, whatever billionaire genius, whatever it was, line that Tony gave. But in this, like Peggy's like no, like the suit doesn't make you, you make the suit, which is really special. So it's again that parallel and that relationship that they form in this. They Peggy promises him, hey, I'm going to teach you how to dance because he is wounded now from the attack, but it's just really really special. So again, we get that concept of like, oh, I owe you a dance when things go to shit at the end of this, but really special.
Language.
Oh, sorry. Anything else on Steve and Peggy?
No, I was very happy with them. I saw people drawing parallels to Steve and Bucky on Twitter. Like Steve took Bucky's spot, but I'm like, there were like to me at least they were similar, but like when they're getting the drink together, they're not like holding hands. Bucky actively tries to hit on Peggy, and she's like, "I'm invisible to them now." Like,
Right.
what is happening? So it was. I liked how like they just kind of slightly shifted it to work together.
Yeah. The other big goal in this is they want to bring down Hydra. They get some intel that there's going to be this train where Red Skull's going to be, and they try to infiltrate it. Kind of just like in the movie, like they do that similar like wintry scene, train scene up in Norway. Things go a little bit different for people. In that scene, Bucky had died. In this one, he almost falls off just like he did in the first movie. Peggy catches him. He goes, "Oh, you almost ripped off my arm." I'd love a little nod to the fact that he'll lose an arm in our Sacred Timeline MCU to become the Winter Soldier. But in this, it's actually Steve who people believe dies because it all ends up being a trap. So that way they can get the Hydra Stomper suit from Steve and maybe even take him out too. But so that way they can get the Tesseract back and get the power of the Tesseract. So really interesting way to do it. Again, you got the parallels going back and forth where it was Bucky dying in the original movie, and now you have Steve allegedly dying, which we find out quicker in this movie than we ever did for Bucky that he was alive. But what are your thoughts on the scene, the parallels of it, and what everything else?
Yeah, I really liked how it was going. Like they had Peggy is just even more impressive than Steve as captain, as the captain mantle, because she already captured the scientist, and this was supposedly going for Johann Schmidt at the time on this train. But instead, so she's already like a step ahead, but instead it's actually a trap set to recover the Tesseract. I was mortified thinking that Steve and the Hydra Buster was gonna be a Winter Soldier already. I was sitting there, I'm like, oh no,
Well,
but
what
it
I thought
wasn't.
too, we kept seeing like these things of like zombie Cap. I was like, is that how they can do it? But I was like, no, they can't because he's not Cap technically. So like, I don't know
Right,
what.
like we know Marvel Zombies is gonna be a different universe
Yeah.
for
So I was
sure.
like, I was confused how it was gonna happen. But Howard is very adamant, saying, "Listen, that suit's indestructible," and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Before that scene happens, though, there's a lot of cool fight scenes, and so I know it's all animated, but it's incredible. There was like that one fight scene where Peggy was basically like, doing like Black Widow, like flying through the air, aka falling through the air, and a couple times she would like smash these planes. She'd jump back on Steve, who was flying in the Hydra Smasher suit, and then jump off again. It was so beautifully well done. It was great. Um, but again, so they get the Hydra and Red Skull gets the Tesseract, and they are able to actually use it. And they open up a portal that basically brings in the champion of Hydra, this giant, monstrous, Stranger Things looking octopus thing. It's not, I don't know if it's actually an octopus, but has a
I
bunch of tentacles and it's awesome.
I just drew a ton of comparisons to Cthulhu in Lovecraft.
I've never watched that.
Well, you read that.
Oh, I thought
H.P.
it's a TV show.
Lovecraft.
Huh?
H.P. Lovecraft. The
I, oh,
It's
I thought you were
okay.
talking about like Lovecraft Country or something
Well, I
like
mean,
that.
he's in that too, but kind of.
Oh,
But
okay.
Cthulhu is a huge godlike evil deity. But
Gotcha. I thought Stranger Things, but to each their own on that. So they unleash this thing. Peggy goes with like the rest of the crew that Cap would have had in the first Avenger movie. Howard comes along too because they need to stop this thing. They need to stop Hydra and end it, or else this champion Hydra is going to basically devour all of Europe. We get this awesome fight scene where Peggy is going back and forth. The champion actually is the one that kills Red Skull in this. Red Skull doesn't go into a portal and become the keeper of the Soul Stone, which is interesting. So he's DEAD dead in this universe. And we get to this beautiful moment where, just like Cap had to do in Captain America: The First Avenger, Peggy had to sacrifice herself. But instead of bringing down a ship and then being frozen in time, Peggy uses all her strength and all her might to push this champion of Hydra back through the portal, where she's eventually sucked up too. We do see that Steve is alive. He was fine. Howard was right. The Hydra Smasher suit was indestructible, and Steve survived. He was rescued by Bucky and the rest of his friends there. But unfortunately, Peggy is lost. And I was like, oh my God, that's what they did. But I was like, there's no way they're not just going to bring her back. They have too much merchandise tied into to Peggy in this. How are they going to do this? But your thoughts on that before we talked about the big reveal at the end.
This episode made me be like, I want the Captain Carter Funko. I will say that. Yeah. All I know is it was not the champion of Hydra. That thing squished Red Skull like a bug, which I was shocked. I was like, oh my God.
That's how they did it. I was like, oh boy.
Really interesting how she pushed him back. It drew parallels very much to Avengers, especially the ending. But I kind of got the thing, like the way she was pushing it back, I'm like, she could have pushed it back and they could have closed it around like her shield instead. But I understand why to push the story. But I'm like, they could have closed the portal like halfway through and cut off some of the tentacles. But
yeah, that's a great point, Cliff. Another parallel, right? Like she sacrificed herself by going through the portal to fight this alien creature thing. Very reminiscent of Iron Man taking the nuclear bomb into the portal to end the war in New York, or the Battle of New York. Obviously, he fell out before the portal closed, so he was able to come back to Earth. Peggy doesn't in this. The Tesseract is recovered by Howard, and then 70 years pass by. I thought they were going to do this as like an end credit scene kind of thing, but they did it right after this, more or less, where we jump forward to this current timeline's 2012, their beginning of Avengers event, where we have, who was there? It was Hawkeye and Nick Fury were there. They're able to power up this Tesseract, and instead of Loki coming out of it, basically, Peggy's alive and well. So Peggy survived the 70 years that she was in this portal world. We don't know where she was. She was never frozen in ice like Cap was, but she's missed 70 years just like Cap did at this point. So it's very interesting. We don't know if Steve is alive or not. He very well could be, because Peggy was alive when Steve came back. Granted, she was very old at that point because she lived for 70 years while Steve was away. But very cool that this is the 2012 in this timeline. Gonna lead to an Avengers moment, we can guess, but with Peggy Carter carrying the shield and the mantle of Captain Carter instead of Captain America in this universe, which is cool because it brings us up to closer to our timeline and ourselves here.
Yes, and I think I'm reading the reviews on IMDb right now just to kind of see what it is. It's averaging with about 2,000 views. It's about a 7.7 out of 10, and honestly, I kind of agree with that. It was a good first episode. It really got me into it. And the biggest complaint from a lot of people, and I do agree with this. I wasn't gonna touch it, but seeing a lot of other people say it felt very fast.
Yes, it was 30 minutes. I like the 30-minute episode, though.
I like the 30-minute episode, but you can't fit a 2-hour movie into 30 minutes.
But I think that's the thing, too, is like a lot of it is a retelling of the first one. I know there's different stuff, but so you don't want to do a whole 2-hour movie again when we like, okay, like we.
Oh, of course. I understand what people are saying. Like, I am not going to fault it as much for it because, like, if you've seen every Marvel thing, you can fill in the blanks. You understand
what do you think, another 5-10 minutes?
I think 40 minutes would have slowed it down just enough where it would have not felt like it's the way I explained the Rise of Skywalker. You never stop moving. You never stop moving to think. You need that like little maybe 4 or 5 minute buffer. And the thing was, we had that almost with the bar scene until Howard bolts in.
Right.
And then Steve, and then Bucky was there with the Jeep, which actually we now know that Steve definitely learned how to steal a Jeep from Bucky. Bucky
Yeah,
taught him how to do that because Bucky
yeah.
steals it. But no,
But
I was definitely very happy with this
I thought it was
episode,
great.
and I'm more excited to see what we're gonna get.
And the best part about it too is I like that the Watcher didn't interfere too much. The Watcher was in the beginning, mentioned, okay, this is the moment when this reality branch, whatever, was created, and at the end where he basically says like what we've heard a bunch of times: I can't interfere, I will not interfere. Um, like I'm just the Watcher kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I was interested to see what the Watcher's role was going to be. Was he going to be in a lot? I mean, they make little like minifig Legos for him, so I didn't know if we would get a lot of him or not. But I thought he was in just enough to just set everything up and then like tell the story without we didn't need a full narrator. I like that a lot. But I love the show. I'm
Yes,
so pumped for episode 2. I'm assuming we're gonna get this
I
timeline version of Avengers, and that's what I cannot wait for either to get the new team up circle possibly.
so yes, I will say well the Watcher tells us, oh I'm not allowed to interfere. I cannot interfere. Jeffrey Wright, one of the best voices out there.
Yeah.
But supposedly people, I don't know the comics as well as someone like you does, but supposedly the Watcher says he can't interfere and then interferes ridiculously.
A lot of
So I
times.
have a feeling, I mean, we know the Watcher is in the Tony Stark Lego where he makes the
Yes.
makeshift Hulkbuster.
Yep.
So I'm guessing he's going to start to interfere. But just so people know, because it is on IMDb, which means it is public sourced, episode 2 will be what would have happened if T'Challa and not Peter Quill was picked up by Yondu as a child and became Star-Lord. So we
So
know that we are going to be seeing Chadwick Boseman's voice next week, as well as Michael Rooker returning for
start crying
Yondu.
now.
What? I know,
I'm gonna
right?
start crying
Just
now.
get the tears ready. We know that Sean Gunn is back as Kraglin. Korath is back. I'm trying to see who else. And Taserface is back. I've heard rumors about what's going to be in that episode. I'm not going to say any. But then we also know that episode 3 is what if Loki presented himself to Earth governments as king of Asgard using his diplomacy. So not attacking, him being very suave. We do not have confirmation on who's voicing who. I'm going to take a guess. Tom Hiddleston is back. All
Right.
we know is Jeffrey Wright is in that episode. So
Cool. I'm
those are
excited,
some
man.
pretty cool first 3 episodes for sure. It
Let
already
me put a
sounds.
quick tweet to Marvel real quick.
Go ahead.
Marvel, give me an art of book for this. You gave me one for Mandalorian. It's beautiful. Give me an art of. I don't care about the other ones. I don't care about Loki, WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier. This is the art of book. I want to buy prints of these because the artwork is beautiful. Like I want Peggy jumping on Hydra Stomper's back. Like I want that picture right before he like launches off like that side profile one. I need that in my office everywhere. It's beautiful.
It is. Oh, Matthew Wood also contributes voices, who's the voice of General Grievous to people. I would love art for this because it's just so. It's just nice. I think is the
Beautiful.
best way to
I
put
hope they
it.
continue on. I know they're going to do a season 2, so this is going to be 9 episodes. I think season 2 is either like 8, 9, or 10. I want. I really do want more like original Marvel Studios animation that count as canon because this is just an awesome first start. But
Both
Cliff,
seasons are confirmed to be 9 episodes
9,
each.
awesome. But Cliff, I think that's all we got for today. Do you have anything else to add? I loved it. I'm excited for next week, man.
I mean, looking on IMDb, they actually have told us what the last 3, the last 2, or episodes 7 and 8 are. So we know that
Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
well, I'm just gonna say episode 8's Marvel Zombies. So I'll
Okay.
leave it at that.
Interesting.
So pretty cool. Can they find me? You can find me at CP Robinson 81 to talk about What If, Star Wars, all things Disney Plus. We're getting into football season, so if you're a sports fan, I will talk that as well.
Absolutely. You can find me at Twitter at CamRamos95. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Stream the Mouse. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Streaming with the Mouse. You can find us on our website, cprob.com/stream the mouse. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and our YouTube channel. Just be sure to search Streaming with the Mouse. Be sure to leave 5 stars, like, thumbs up, all the above, subscribe, rate, review, all that fun stuff on all our channels so we can get more earlobes, I guess. I was going to say earballs, but earlobes on the
That'd be an
podcast.
interesting one. Earballs.
But yeah, we're going to be back to talk What If. Next week we're still figuring out what's happening next week. I'm on vacation next week. We're going to figure out a way to do the season 1 finale of Bad Batch, whether that's me doing it or Cliff with a guest. And we will come back probably right before episode 3 comes out of What If is when our episode 2 What If reaction will come out. So What If episode 2 probably won't come out till maybe that Monday or Tuesday before episode 3, but we will get you a Bad Batch episode at some point next week. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Avengers Assemble. Have a magical day. Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.